Good evening. It's Sunday and welcome to Costa with me, Costa Mwansa. Now, last week, Minister of Justice Princess Kasune presented the proposed constitutional amendments to Parliament, along with a detailed roadmap outlining the process. Among the key proposals is constituency delimitation, which seeks to amend Articles 58 and 68 to redraw electoral boundaries for a more equitable distribution of the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, based on a size and population. Another amendment involves the candidate resignation clause, which proposes changes to Article 52, Clause 6, to allow elections to proceed without fresh nominations if a candidate dies or resigns. Meanwhile, several stakeholders have strongly opposed the government's expedited constitutional amendment process, calling on President Hakainde Hichilema to postpone any changes until after the 2026 general election. On tonight's edition of Costa, I ask, what is the real motive behind these constitutional amendments? Do the people who seek to give themselves a constitution unto themselves feel that there is need yet again to have a bite at our constitution? We tackle these and many more issues right after this. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Costa. My guest, the Minister of Justice, Honourable Princess Kasune, MP. We discuss the proposed constitutional amendments. We're live on channel 271 on DSTV. It's channel 20 on GoTV, and we are live on our Facebook stream. It's Diamond TV Online, as well as Diamond Media Zambia on Facebook. It's Diamond TV Zambia on YouTube. Minister, it's a pleasure and welcome to Costa, and happy Women's Month.
Well, thank you very much. I don't want it to end. It's just amazing how women are just rallying around each other and how women are recognizing other women. What a beautiful time to see this happening. It's been long overdue, and I'm very excited for the women out there, for all of us. I think we are showing a different side, that we as women, we are ready to support each other.
Great. Before we get into tonight's discussion, as we've been celebrating and commemorating all the achievements, all the issues around women in Women's Month, sad enough that this month as well has seen one of the most dreaded escalation in cases of GBV in form of child defilement, especially for the girl child. Horrendous stories. We hear about 4 in one day in Southern Province, 7-year-old cancer patient molested by the father. You were quite vocal and emotional on this, on the floor of Parliament. As Justice Minister, what is your reflection in terms of how rigorous our law is in terms of deterring child defilement?
So I think, Costa, first of all, we have to realize that as a family, we have a big responsibility. I think that's where it begins from, because what is saddening is that a lot of these cases, some of them are incest, meaning it has happened within the family. And believe you me, I think it is now that we are hearing them more, and part of it is social media. Before, you have to wait for the news, or you never heard the news because it ended in that location. And so you will find that a lot of rape cases, defilement, as well as any acts of incest have happened in homes. And it's not just a new phenomenon. I know of stories where I have been told of stories like, why didn't you tell me? When did this happen? It's so secretive. You hear of stories where a guest come in the home, and while you go to bed, father and mother, someone wakes up and rapes the children, and they are always threatened. And these are children who are now 30 years, 40 years, telling their stories. What I think has helped is, first of all, maybe young people are also getting the courage to report. Also social media is playing a bigger role. And so there are these advantages of social media, and yet at the same time, you wonder whether some of the behaviors are becoming more rampant because people are watching things they shouldn't be watching on social platforms, and young people end up doing these things. But if there is an issue that has made me so livid, and I'm glad that a lot of Zambians, men and women, are saying, yes, we won't forget about the boy child. Of course not. But it is happening more statistically to the girl child. And hence you're hearing the voices we are raising. And I think let's talk about the perpetrators. Let's talk about a man did this to a 5-year-old, so that we kind of shift the narrative that is not more focused on the person who was raped, but the person who did it. It's unfortunate. That very day when I spoke Costa in Parliament, which was very touching for a lot of people because I was so emotional, and I could only think of Sister D, I think, when she sang that song, Vitende ni Vijuveni. You know, what she was trying to say is, if this is what is making you commit that act, you know, very disgraceful and so animal behavior, why not cut it off? So, I mean, now I'm speaking as a mother. It's really annoying. And if there are women who are doing it to boys as well, a stiff punishment has to be meted. I just don't remember exactly what years we have. And I think we need to be thinking of non-bail. But the point is, how many people can we also put in prisons? So it's a catch-22. So better we notice some of these signs in our homes, better we hear from our children, better we warn our children, better as a society we begin to interrogate our mental cases and what services do we have in terms of mental health, and better we look at the brokenness of our system. And believe you me, I have heard people say, if I have boy children, that's all I keep in my house. If I have girl children, that's all I keep. Because you can imagine, I have 10 adopted children, and they all stay in my house. They are not coming from the same family. Some are coming from my mother's side, but some are coming from my father's side. So anything can happen. So one of the things I've tried to do, because I've been so much in constant with this conversation, is to talk to them. Look, you're not here to start taking advantage of each other. No one should touch this part of your body. And by the way, there are a lot of sodomy cases.
Is it a broken family system? Is it a health issue, like you say, a mental health issue? Is it a societal moral decay, or it's the fact that the law is not hard enough on the punishment? It's
everything. Everything put together. There is brokenness of families. It's unfortunate. A lot of our homes today, we are all experiencing either one parent is not there by death or by divorce. All those have effects on our children. But also when you hear some of these stories that are coming out, it's the father, you know, usually. I haven't heard of the mother, but I'm sure they're there. And the punishment should be done, either you're a woman or male. So I think it's a combination of everything. And when we want to find a solution, it has to be a combination of everything. The law has to become as stiff as possible. I am arguing that it becomes unbearable. I would even take it further that people have to be castrated, literally. That's how far I'm taking it. But this is me. Someone will say, what about the human rights? Well, what about the human rights of the children? You know, these are things that we need to begin to ask ourselves. And that is why we keep saying, where one's human rights end, someone else's rights begin. And it's unfortunate because a lot of these children are babies. They are young children. So I'd rather worry more about their rights that have been violated than someone who's much older.
Well, as a person sitting in Parliament, obviously as Minister of Justice, you have it within your mandate to see to it that the law is strengthened, and we hope that we can see you moving on the floor of the House for stricter and more, harder or harsher punishments.
Yeah, but even the church leaders, you find that a pastor has defiled a child. You find that today I was listening of a 15-year-old boy defiles a 5-year-old.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law. You know, some people are here, they do it for rituals, so that if you sleep with this one, you are going to have more wealth or you will have success. Who does that? And why would we want to believe these things? So if there are some witch doctors or whoever is practicing that, they also need to be brought to book.
Let's get into tonight's discussion on the floor of Parliament. Last week you outlined about 13, proposed amendments to the current constitution, Act number 2 of 2016. And I think before you even went to the floor of Parliament, the biggest outcry from various sections of society, when the president had started talking, I think it was on Women's Day in Kasama, he later touched on it on Youth Day in Mongo, is whether there was a draft or not and whether there was, consultation. I'll start right from really quoting what legal scholars talk about, or what Zambian history teaches, that in any time our constitution process is being amended, the president, obviously under the Inquiries Act of 1967, Cap 41 of the laws of Zambia, is mandated to come up with a commission of inquiry or constitution review commission to go out there, either through a constituent assembly or a constitutional conference or whatever mode that we use, for people to begin to speak to issues of consensus building of what they want to see within their constitution. That is what the scholars and the law is saying. This administration of the UPND is being accused of wanting to push constitution amendments down the throat of Zambians without consensus. Let's start from there. Did you consult the people? Are you bulldozing amendments just 17 months before the election? And if so, why?
Thank you, Costa, for that question. I think I have been very clear that one of the things that we are taking into consideration are the actual reports that have been done from different constitutional reviews. These committees came up with resolutions which we have not worked on as Zambians. I think that is where we need to begin. I think in my statement I talked of the Chona Constitutional Review report, I talked about the Mvunga, I talked about the Monakatwe, and so on and so forth, up to the end of the National Dialogue Forum. And so what we are thinking, or what we have used in our argument, is that can we look at these constitutional review reports and take what we feel are more compelling during our mandate as the UPND government, looking at what they had recommended before. It's not everything, of course, but the few that we feel they sit with the needs that we have currently. What are those? Issues like delimitation. What are those? Issues like how do we cure the issue of by-elections? The issue of fresh nominations so that you just derail the process, and so on and so forth. So these are the issues that we have said, let's look at them, because some of them have come from the constitutional reviews, but some of it also has just been what we have been saying as Zambians. Long before I became Minister of Justice, you'd hear people say, no, we are so tired of these by-elections. We have become election-year country. Then you hear concerns around what if there was someone who really wanted to take advantage of the system, where they kept sponsoring, because in politics there's a lot of sponsoring candidates who just derail the process by resigning. Again, they would start all over again. You could see a president stay for the longest time. And this UPND Newton government is saying, let's cure that so that one day we don't have to experience a situation where we have someone overstaying out of using this ambiguity or a gap. So those are just where we are coming from. Secondly, Costa, to add, and indeed to the public, we are trying to take the legislative process, and that much of what we have taken away from the reviews and the reports that we were given, we are also saying we are still waiting for the Electoral Commission of Zambia to give their electoral reforms report from the Electoral Technical Committee. And so that is another addition, a voice that is not yet added. That is something that I said in the roadmap. And lastly, maybe not the least, it is to say these are only provisions from where we sit from. Now, if we have been blindsided by any of these issues, we want to hear the Zambians. So this is why we are
just
here.
there, Minister, you say we, and you're referring to we as the UPND. The UPND is just a party representing its followers, its members, out of 20 million Zambians. I'll take you to the preamble in Article 2 of our Constitution. It says very clearly that we, the people, give ourselves this Constitution. It should not be the UPND to give the people of Zambia. And this is where the question is, why do you feel that you have the mandate or you have the privilege to give the Zambians a constitution and not the people tell you what they want? That is number one. Number two, what is surprising many stakeholders, and I want to ask this question tonight, en route to 2021, when the UPND voted, rejected and campaigned against Bill 10, in 2016, the UPND rejected, campaigned rigorously against a Bill of Rights side by side the election. You said, in many aspects, the Constitution was okay and needed no further amendments. What has changed?
Thank you for that. First of all, I think I started from saying that we are taking into consideration the constitutional reviews that has happened in different commissions. So right there, when I say we, I am taking those in consideration as well, or we are taking those in consideration as well. I wasn't even born in 1973 when the Chona Commission did their reviews and their recommendation. I'm born in 1976. So you can see when we talk about the different commissions that gave the reports, I don't want us to abandon that. There was a lot of intelligence that was put into that. There was a lot of care and thought that was put into that, all the way to the National Dialogue Forum, which happened under PF Byway.
Which you rejected as a party and said that everything that they were doing was bad.
I don't think it was everything. I'm sure there was a bone of contention on certain things. So what I just want to make clear is that this has nothing to do with the UPND by themselves, because we are aware that the Constitution of Zambia is the document, the supreme document of the people. Now, when you're in government, you are more of a facilitator. I have called Minister of Justice as the birth attendant, really, into what the Zambian people would want. Now, I think what is different is what we are used to. It is these commissions, which we are saying, as now the government, but we have a lot of them already. Why don't we take the wisdom that was already in those commissions? Why don't we get even the ERTC report that will come out of that? Why don't we take even the conversations we are having now? And by the way, Costa, which you know very well, that once we take the legislative away, there is 30 days of gazetting the bill. That is another time. The idea is that people can still write and bring their concerns. And then the other part is where it goes to Parliament. But even before that, then there is a select committee where there are other stakeholders. But even before that, we will continue engaging people, whether it is I don't know, through the medium that we are using right now, but also just some of the meetings that will follow, so that we get this document together. And I think I've been categorical as well to say, if the people of Zambia do not want this to happen, guess what? There is actually a way you put a get to that, and that is also by vote.
So again, if you say you're trying to put together what is a culmination of the Chona, the Mvunga,
all of them,
the Mwanakatwe, the Mungomba,
yes,
the NCC,
yes, the
CRC, and now the NDF.
Yes.
I'd like to point out one thing. The PF under President Sata tried the same thing. They said there have been so many commissions and so much was done. Let's just do 90 days. And that commission led by Chief Justice, the late Anel Sulungwe, had so many progressive things. It was from that Bill 10 progressed onto. And what people don't trust is the aspect that the process then must protect the content. It's the political manipulation that comes towards the end where the legislature or National Assembly is given the power to then begin to cherry pick that which the people have given or wish to give unto themselves. In your proposed roadmap, one, the people are saying, you have not consulted them. Who is giving you these amendments? That's number one. Number two, the time frame is too short. It is too suspicious. It is too close to an election. Why do you want to push on to this the same way others attempted to bring in a third term and people pushed back? Why have you brought amendments before consulting the people?
Well, I think we have labored on the issue of consultation, and the argument we are making is that we are taking into consideration the Commission's reports. And secondly, we are not even the final say in some of these things. For example, on delimitation, the final say on delimitation is ECZ, and they will have to give recommendations to the executive, just like they gave the recommendation in 2019. So I think we are differing in how we want to talk about consultation, but from what I've outlined, it's the Commission reports, it is even the ERTC that will still be coming out of ECZ, it is the Gazette period that people can still write and air their views and concerns. It is also the Stakeholder Committee period that happens at Parliament, where a report is actually written. And this is one of the progressive committees when you have a select committee where members and indeed stakeholders are chosen from all walks of life to come and speak to the subject at hand. And this being a national document, this being a very topical issue, and rightfully so, we will expect that a lot of people will be invited. And if you're not even invited, you can even write to Parliament that you want to show up there. And I hope that it will also be broadcasted. So for me, I think the issue of consultation, really, from where I'm sitting from, again, we can differ. That is what we are looking as it relates to consultation.
Still talking about
but let me talk about the time frame. Why now and this short period of time? The point is, I think where I'm sitting from is that there has been these conversations which has led to these provisions. And there is also a stopgap, a gate, for lack of a better word. There is a term I'm looking for which is not coming. The 156 members of Parliament, they still have to vote. This is not a simple vote.
Is it a pressing matter, Minister of Justice? Will Zambians die if the Constitution is not amended before 2026? Is it a pressing matter?
I don't think that is the question. The question is...
No, when you say...
It's not about days.
No, yeah. In short, I'm using those words in that, is it a matter of life and death, in short? That's what I'm trying to say. Is it such a pressing matter? Because... Hence my question, what has changed? You said there was no rush as for UPND for you to amend the Constitution. Why? That's why the timeline. Why 16 months before the election?
Absolutely, and that's the issue I wanted to address. I think we have thrown it to the public. That is why I think one of the things that we are differing upon, people expected some of the allegations as such as the president is trying to bring in the 50+1 clause to be taken out. Well, he is the beneficiary of 50+1. Without 50+1, maybe he wouldn't be president today. So those who are naysayers, they found that that clause was not there. Secondly, they wanted to accuse about that the running mate clause is going to be taken out. None of those provisions do say anything about the running mate. And thirdly, the president was trying to manipulate this by extending his tenure from 5 years to 7 years. Well, those things are not there. So let's be clear. And I think it would have been prudent to come back for those who had said that there were those things to say, well, you know what, we were misled or we made wrong allegations.
But those things, according to your presentation, are not there. The question still is, these 13 proposed amendments that you talk about, delimitation of new constituencies and wards, the need to revise the provisions relating to filing of fresh nominations, the introduction of an electoral system that enhances representation of women, youth and persons with disability, reintroduction of members of parliament into councils, hearing of determination of an election, revision of the provisions relating to by-elections. All these issues, Will they change anything? Is it an emergency?
Absolutely.
Is it an emergency that they need to happen before the 2026 election? Are these a matter of life and death for the Zambian people?
Well, I don't think when the Constitution was made, it was all about life and death. When we have done the amendments, I don't think we can put it to say it has to be because there's life and death. No. But what I can argue is that I'm just coming from the constituency, and one of the challenges you will find is that when we talk about development, we with bigger constituencies have lagged behind. Costa, that is the truth, which maybe you may not experience in your job. But a lot of people, it's not just about the MP saying, oh, we are going to have more members in parliament. First of all, that report was done in 2019. If they go by it, although ECZ has a mandate to review and say, well, because that was 2019, now this is 2025, we are adding or subtracting or however they recommend to the executive. And the executive will then choose to say, this is what we are going to go through. But according to ECZ, they have that mandate. So my argument, maybe where it seems to be life and death from where I'm sitting from, my children in Kembe constituency, or my people, should I say, my students, they're still sitting on the floor. Why? Even with the increase of CDF, because my population is large, you'll find that it's still a drop in the ocean. What does that affect? It affects the outcome of
is the UPND and the Justice Minister tonight telling us that these 13 provisions and adding more constituencies and amending the Constitution with this roadmap will lower the cost of living for the 22 million Zambians? It will solve Zambia's debt problem. It will finish load shedding. It will lower the cost of petrol. It will stabilize the exchange rate. These are the matters of life and death and bread and butter issues for Zambians. Will it improve healthcare? Will it improve that education? These 13 provisions in the Constitution.
Absolutely. I may not speak to issues such as power, for example.
But those are the critical economic solutions Zambians are looking for in terms of priority. When we say constitution, power, constitution, debt, constitution, cost of living. Okay. Zambians are looking for better living than some of the things you propose here.
Absolutely. They go hand in hand. One thing that I want to make clear is that a government has different ministries, Costa. Why do we have different ministries? So that the government is running 24/7, if you may want to call it that. So the Minister of Energy, he is working on energy. We had a drought. No one died of hunger in Zambia. Why? Because you had the Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Finance doing what they're supposed to do. The Minister in Community Development, she increased the social cash transfer. There was emergency cash fund. There was cash food for work. That ministry was doing that. I don't have to wait for those things to all be completely solved. As Minister of Justice, we are saying yes. When we amend using the Constitution, for example, the issue of delimitation, which is part of why we must, it will increase healthcare. It will increase education. I want to speak to the issues you have raised. Because now there will be more funds.
Minister, as a rider to what you're saying and following what your government has been saying,
yes.
When we were hit with a drought, when we were hit with an energy crisis, this government took us into austerity measures, especially because of the debt. We are right now in a 2025 budget that is non-concessional. Why? Because budgets have to be cut. The budget has to be cut because cash for work has to be looked at as subsidy. Food has to be provided. So we are working on a cut budget. Many government ministries are not receiving the same financing. What am I trying to say? Increasing, first of all, constituencies means an extra cost in a cut budget,
and it means increase in healthcare.
So is that priority? Number one. Number two, conducting this constitutional review process will also be a cost. And you have not come out, despite giving us this roadmap, you have not come out to give us the cost of this exercise.
Why that is?
And this is why the question is it a priority at this time when we have mega resources that we undertake a constitution review when we have competing issues?
Because a government is a big machine. as you are looking at the energy situation, as you are looking at the food situation, you can also be amending the constitution.
But it's not budgeted for. It's not in the 2025 budget.
And you know why? It will be cost effective. It's because a lot of it, from what we are suggesting, if the Zambian people agree, it is going to be a legislative process.
Which means that then the people will not be consulted fairly.
How are they not consulted when it clearly says in Article 79 that part of the representation of the people, on top of the commissions that have already happened, on top of what the EACZ is going to bring, is that the members of parliament represent the people.
And let me read something for you.
We have to be careful.
Let me read something for you now, because you were saying you have taken into consideration what the commission said.
Yes.
On page 20 of this book, Constitution, Governance and Democracy, I quote, "When the National Constitution Conference was formulated, following the establishment of the Mungomba Constitutional Review Commission, submissions," you said you've tried to take into consideration what all the past commissions have been saying. I'm quoting from the Mungomba. "Submissions were made by the people about what they wish their constitution to be and contain. The late President Mwansa, through the SI number 4 of 2023, prescribed terms of reference under which the Commission was to operate. Important of the terms of reference were, number 1, as already considered above. In accordance with these terms of reference, besides collecting views from the people, what the commissioners were mandated to come up with is a constitution that would be acceptable, and in order for that to happen, the commissioners, as submitted by the people and as thought by themselves, recommended the process of adoption that would somewhat guarantee enacting a constitution that people would refer to as people-driven. Having examined all the possible modes contained under the terms of reference, the commissioners, agreeing with the submissions of the people, recommended that the constitution be adopted through a constituent assembly in the following manner. The commissioners observed that among the 7 competing views, namely the Constituent Assembly, the National Assembly, the referendum, the President, the Constitutional Review Commission, people in their respective constituencies, and the House of Chiefs, the most practical and assuring method of adoption is by a Constituent Assembly. With regard to adoption by the National Assembly, the Commission observes that those petitioners who favour the National Assembly were outnumbered by far by those in favour of the Constituent Assembly. Those in favour of adoption by the National Referendum, President, Constitutional Review Commission, people in respective constituency of the House of Chiefs are relatively insignificant minorities, views not shared by a preponderant majority of the petitioners. In real terms, the only 2 formidable competing views are adoption by the CA or the National Assembly. In this conclusion, the Commission notes that except for adoption through a national referendum, these minority views are not all backed by any reasons for justifications for submissions mode. What this is saying, that the Mungomba and the NCC, in the famous process protects content, did not trust the politicians in terms of adopting this by legislative process.
I totally got what they were saying. And that is why, first of all, Costa, we are saying, even with the legislative process, if that's what you're going to implement, you still have a situation where there will be a report which stakeholders, those who have come to Parliament, where they do write what they say. And I hope that Parliament will even broadcast that a sitting or the sittings that was going to happen, because this is a national issue. And it is from there that the report is also read. And I think it is there that also members of Parliament are informed. Why is this now? When you look at a lot of international protocols, even our own national development, 8th National Development Plan, we were talking about the 50-50 representation, which I know you will get to as you look at Article 259, and then even Article 60 to say, but we have not done it. Well, that is why we are saying, whether it's a quota system, whether it's a mixed member system, whether it's proportional, can we move? Because right now, Zambia, we are sitting very low when it comes to participation of women. And you may argue to say, well, Cabinet doesn't have a lot of women. You know what? More reason Why? You want to have something that is in concrete, something that is really protected by a legislative framework. So by us finding a system, which again, we have to agree, especially with the guidance of ECZ, to say this is what will help our numbers. Currently, we are sitting on 15% of women in parliament. It was once 18 in 2016, it has dropped to 15. At mayoral level and council chairpersons, I think it's even less than 10, if not around 10%. The councillors is still the same. So if those articles are in there, 259 and also 60, why haven't we done them? Guess what? They are not as commanding or as in stone as you'd have if you have a quota system or whatever system we may choose. And then we can bring the constitution to life.
The bigger question is obviously whether this is priority. You still have you say it will be cheaper because of a legislative cost, but we're not guaranteed.
And considering the other,
we are not guaranteed that the legislative cost will address consultative issues and it will address protection of content from that process. But let's get straight into your first proposed amendment. And I will pick from the statement that the Law Association of Zambia gave a detailed response to your amendments last week on Friday. The Constitution, Chapter 1 of the Laws of Zambia, provides for a fixed number of constituencies in the country, and I'm quoting from your statement, which today is 156. The Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, is mandated at intervals of not more than 10 years to review the names and boundaries of constituencies. It is proposed that Articles 58 and 68 be amended. That is what you're proposing. To provide for actualization of delimitation of constituencies and wards to be determined by the Electoral Commission of Zambia. The impact of delimitation, Madam Speaker, will provide equitable distribution of resources, particularly the CDF, based on population and geography, size or landmass. Equity versus equality, Madam Speaker. Imagine constituencies which are the size of some European countries getting the same amount as a small constituency. This is the injustice, the iniquity that government and the people of Zambia are concerned about. That's your proposal. The LAS has responded to you saying this is a new proposal. However, delimitation requires a careful and wide consultative process to avoid potential political conflict in terms of drawing boundaries to perpetuate political gains. The proposed timeline in the roadmap is not sufficient to achieve the required consultative process. Rushing delimitation ahead of elections is not wise. Further, there is also no agreement as to the basis of the proposed delimitation exercise. Here the question: will it be based on the 2019 review by the ECZ or indeed a new one? Will it have political parties agree the parameters of the proposed delimitation, and will they agree just before the election? Meaning, when they ask this question, Minister, ECZ has already told us that Algeria is going to print ballot papers. Tenders obviously been issued on the number of constituencies. So there'll be further cost implications should this happen. Very important question. Using the argument of CDF fund as a basis for delimitation is not persuasive. And I agree with them on this question. As CDF is not in the Constitution, further, CDF is not one of the matters to be taken into account by the ECZ when delimitating constituencies. And wards under Article 59 of the Constitution. There are many more options available to the government to enhance equity in CDF allocations and utilization. Here are the following recommendations. Government can consider allocating CDF based on the number of wards within each constituency, since the creation of wards does not require a constitutional amendment, so it's cheaper. But within the control of Parliament, bigger constituencies in terms of geographical size and population can have more wards, thereby attracting higher CDF to achieve equity in the interim. Government could also consider creating more districts to enhance service delivery in areas with bigger constituencies in line with the decentralization policy. Additionally, government should attend to inefficiencies surrounding the low utilization of CDF across the country.
I think all those are really well thought out proposals. Again, like we have said, this is a process, and part of the process is giving the provisions, suggestions, a list of for the people to look at. And so Laz has done a good job to tell us what they think, and I think those are points that we should take into consideration. However, let me hasten to say that ECZ can come to us and say, yes, you can use the 2019 delimitation report. It's possible. And it's up to the executive also to say yes, because in that report, it talked about 94 other constituencies being added, which means it was going to bring it to 250. Now, the issue of giving more advantage to a political party, and I believe in this case, we are thinking of the ruling party, I think those allegations will always be there. When we did that, when that report was being done, I was already a member of parliament, and they did come to our constituencies. For example, Kembe, we had argued that we should have 2 constituencies out of the 1, so meaning we're supposed to have 3. And we also argued for some wards, but they were not given to us. Only 1 ward was added. So you can see, at no time will we ever satisfy 100%. I think that's something also to consider, that whenever there will be a report, whether it's the 2019, those of us who were there as members of parliament, we had our own observations that in areas where we were seen to be a strong opposition representation, we were not given the same care, which is population, size, and all those things, compared to those where they were more running the ruling party. So it has to be done at some point.
But Minister, my argument in earlier question was that even if we increase the number of MPs through delimitated constituencies to say more than 90,
yes,
are we saying then that this country can only develop through CDF? What do I mean? Because the primary role of an MP is to legislate, is to make laws, really. Shouldn't we be strengthening what Laz is saying then, that the local government system in terms of delivering clean water, in terms of delivering a proper health system, in terms of delivering now a proper education system through health and education? Is decentralization through more MPs? Is that what UPND is telling us, that we can only develop health, education, clean water, agriculture and the economy if we have more MPs in parliament? And their job is to make laws?
And I want you to shift it to make more constituencies, which will lead to more MPs. I think the problem
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, the problem I have seen, we focus more on the member of parliament. Oh, there will be more getting this out of the taxpayers' money. But you were not looking at what would trickle down to the people. Yes, there is a lot of benefit when you talk about service delivery when a constituency is manageable. What I like from Laz, if I may accept, is the issue of how do we use words, if, for example, so that it then expands the amount. So the argument they're making is literally, if Kembe thinks should have 3 constituencies, you can still do that by giving maybe twice the money over the current 6.1, and by multiplying the words, which you kind of get to what you want. Now, can I just finish? The point is, we want these conversations to come so that we can add them and see. And ultimately, it is about we coming together with something. The government is listening, and we want these views. If one of the provisions is not progressive, or we find that we can tweak it, well and good.
But Minister, my question again, and I'll keep on asking it, is I think what the country has been crying for is decentralization, that development trickles down from the HQ, from the hub in Lusaka, directly to the grassroots. Yeah. And I think the PF through President Sata did this when he introduced new districts. Laz has spoken about this partly. This is what I'm saying. If the country increases the number of constituencies, ultimately it means a parliamentarian. The parliamentarian's role, it's not even about paying the...
But is that what is happening on the ground?
Just hold on a minute. Shouldn't we be strengthening decentralization away from the legislation, but finding more efficient ways at local government level, at civil at the council level? Because even in the 2016 amendments, we as a country were trying to look at a sort of federal state, a sort of provincial budgets and so on. Isn't this the way we should be going for decentralization
Those are conversations
rather
to
than
have.
CDF, an increased number of constituencies?
I will tell you that when you are running as a member of parliament, your people are not just looking at you as to make laws in parliament. Costa, you've been in constituencies. Members of parliament are actually penalized for things which may not even be in their mandate.
Exactly, because your job is to represent the people in legislature.
That's not what's happening.
Your job is not to deliver development. That's why the council is there. That's why the ministries are there.
Unfortunate. That is not the understanding on the ground.
But that's not the law.
Well, that is not the law, but that is what's happening on the ground. And thanks to CDF, that has been a game changer. When I was a member of parliament in 2016 to 2021, guess how many desks Kembe constituency received? I can bet you that there were less than 100. Today, we have done over 8,000 desks. Why? Because of CDF. Hence the decentralization. Every government will have their own vehicle. Well, for UPND, for the sake of equity and equal distribution, we are saying we feel we have actually actualized decentralization through this. I also want us to be more vocal on the issue of increasing numbers of women participation in the political space. We have been lagging behind as a country. Okay, so how do we do that? Even as much as we have Article 259, we have Article 60. This
UPND administration, even with the current articles of the Constitution, does not seem committed. How many youths can you safely say you have in your cabinet? 0. How many women, when you talk about even a level of trying to balance, according to what Article 259 says. Minister Nkombo was just fired on Friday. Has he been replaced by a youth or a woman? Not so. No. Surely there's no commitment being shown. When you look at your cabinet, how many women versus men? So why are you asking for something that you're not even showing that you're committed as a government that listens to the people?
As a gender activist myself for many years, as long as you don't have an affirmative action, you are going to have those accusations you are making or those observations. Let me say observations. Let me make observations.
They are not observations, they are facts. They are facts, Minister.
That is why.
They are facts.
Absolutely.
The UPND administration has no youth by the legal definition in their cabinet. You do not have an equal representation of women. You do not have the commitment by this president. Even out of the 8 nominated, you have more men than women.
And this is what I'm going to answer you. As long as you don't have affirmative action, you understand the way the affirmative action. It is given to ensure that that marginalized group is actually considered. When Obama was president...
So you're saying the UPND is not committed only if the law cages them to do it, that's when they'll do it.
No. I think you need to allow me to finish.
Go ahead, Minister.
Because it is a conversation you and I are having. And I am saying to you, as someone who has been a gender activist for the longest time that I have been, almost closer to 30 years, you will see that countries have to come up with affirmative action. Because like Obama once said, that one of the things sometimes we lack in Africa, it is really having strong laws that will actually allow us, whether there is a good leader or no good leader, to ensure that institutions are actually performing what they're supposed to perform, because it is black and white in the law. So this is why, for me, as a Minister of Justice and as a gender activist,
but Minister,
I am
can you read Article 250?
I will read.
Can you read Article 250?
I will read, or maybe you should read.
No, you have the Constitution. No. Read it for us.
We have been arguing about this.
No, read it for us.
Before I read that article, because there are so many areas where it talks about whoever is in authority of appointing should consider a 50% representation.
And why hasn't this person who is the president in authority considered this Constitution that he swore to uphold?
You know what? One of the things that this president has done, which we haven't given him credit for, yes, he may not have had the numbers in...
Which means this party and the president has not shown commitment.
Finish my sentence. When you look at the PSs, the permanent secretaries, it is a role of the president to appoint. If you look at their percentage, there are more women, if I'm not mistaken. When you look at those in the commissions, there are women there. Why? Because he has also realized there is just gender parity. And one of the things that he has also encouraged us is to say, get affirmative action. And what is that affirmative action? It is by ensuring that we come up with some kind of quota system, some kind of, whether it's mixed membership or proportional, whatever will be more applicable to the Zambian situation. When you talk of article, I think they've put it there.
It's very clear.
Yes.
Where a person is empowered to make a nomination or an appointment to a public office,
Yes.
that person shall ensure that A, that the person being nominated or appointed has the requisite qualification to discharge the functions of the office as prescribed, that 50% of each gender is nominated or appointed from the total available position unless it is not practicable to do so. Are you telling me, Minister of Justice Princess Kasune, tonight that it was not practically so that President Hichilema, out of 25 cabinet members, failed to appoint 50 women?
One of the things.
Was it not practicable for President Hichilema that in his cabinet he couldn't appoint not even 2 or 1 young person below the age of 35? Was it not practically possible?
We only have, I think, a proper youth. Is it not only one? The MP from Nalolo.
Exactly.
Who he would actually be crossing if he is appointed as a minister.
I'm coming to my point. No, I'm coming to my point.
Yeah, I'm talking of the youth.
But he has 8. He has 8 nominated positions.
And now I'm coming to
He has 8 nominated positions.
Let me explain that.
Has President Hichilema fielded any young person? And these are serious matters. Allow me to finish.
Yes.
President Hichilema had 2.8 million votes in 2021. 1 million of those votes came from young people who feel disappointed by this president. Is the same president going to tell them in Mongu, don't throw stones, but out of 8 positions, give me 1 youth who's been appointed by President Hichilema?
I think, if I may...
Is he aligning to Article 259?
I have told you that when it comes to permanent secretaries, he is aligning
How
to
many
Article
youths?
259.
Name one. Practicably so. Name one.
I am talking to the gender before I get to the youth. When it comes to permanent secretaries, that area, he has used his power to try and close the gender parity.
How many permanent secretaries do we have in total, and how many women ministers?
Yeah, I think I should have had that number, and we should check on it. I hope those who are beaming for us, they can check on it. But what I know, that he has used his powers to put more who are female. That also, he has increased the numbers in foreign service, which are more women. Now, whether they outnumber the men, that I do not know, but the point is he has been deliberate. Secondly, he has recognized that there is a gap there, hence why he's saying, I agree to this provision, but take them to the Zambian people, because people have been asking that we adhere to the 50-50 representation or get closer to that because of the Maputo Declaration, because of all these other international
Minister,
now let me get to the nomination.
Minister, just there, when you speak about that,
get to the nomination.
You've been in Parliament for so long, and you will agree that when there was MMD in power, we had almost 15 to 17% of women and youth representation. In the current, from PF now to UPND, there's been a decline. You're talking of almost 9 to 11%, despite the 2016 amendments of Article 60, asking political parties to align with Article 259. Surely presidents, electoral committees within your parties, again, are not doing enough to align to the Constitution.
That is why you need affirmative action, Costa. You know very well that as long as you do not have affirmative action, some of the things you may want to say, I want to see, they will never be there. So
are you saying that other countries that are doing this all have a quota system?
Most of them have affirmative action.
Are you saying that?
Most of them do.
Namibia just did it?
Yes.
Do they have a quota system?
I think Namibia does have a quota
Some
system.
do it from adoption, and we were told in the appointment.
Absolutely. And one of the things we want to also to look into the future, if I may encourage it, is the political party bill. That is another bill that we will need to look at as Zambians. But when you talk about nomination, what was the president's priority? From the way he did things for me, from where I'm sitting from, he did it so that he can bring that balance in terms of regional representation. Because the people he nominated, when you look at them, for example, they are mostly in the northern belts. Why? First of all, UPND was being accused to be another tribal party. He did that so that the cabinet is more balanced in terms of region. And I think that's what consumed him. Now we are saying, and he has said, I want to see the Zambian people support the quota system. I think that is where he is coming from. But my encouragement to all of us, Costa, as long as you do not have affirmative action, you will be left to the will of the leader at the time. And for the president, in this case, he has done it when it comes to payment secretaries. He has done it in foreign service.
And you feel that's where the women should sit, only at PS level?
And that's why I'm arguing for the quota system or proportional representation or mixed member situation, so that we can also get to women in politics.
Allow me to quickly go to number 2 here. The need to revise the provisions relating to filing of fresh nominations or resignation of a candidate in an election. The Constitution under Article 52(6) mandates the Electoral Commission of Zambia to cancel an election and require the filing of fresh nominations where a candidate resigns. The proposal is to amend the aspect relating to resignation of a candidate so that the remaining candidates proceed to participate in the election as opposed to requiring the filing of fresh nominations. This would be an unnecessary cost to the government and would have the probability to destabilize the peace of our country. Laz responded, this proposal is similar to what was contained in Clause 11 of Bill 10 of 2019, which ultimately failed to pass. We know one of the biggest reasons. You locked yourselves up at Community House to actually abscond the voting of Bill 10. And I had an interview with President Hichilema then asking in particular about Article 52(6), and he answered me. It's on record, the video is out there. He said he sees nothing wrong with this article. It should stay as it is. Why should it change? So what is the change of heart now? What is the change of position?
First of all, what I have tried to emphasize, Costa, is that a constitution is a live document. Yes, it's sacred in the sense that it is a national document, but it is a live document.
When it suits you?
When it suits the situation.
So why does it? So it's the contents of the Constitution have not changed. Only the time has changed that now you're in power. So how does it suit you now?
I don't think it's about suiting us. It's about saying, do we want a situation where we have to continue refiling when a member who may be sponsored or...
But this is what you said was okay with you when you were in opposition. This is what you said as UPND. You said you saw nothing wrong. It was okay.
Well,
so what has changed now? How does it suit you?
The president having said that, and I'll leave you to have that conversation with him. But where
it's there, Minister.
Again,
it's there, and it's on record.
I will not argue with what is on record.
And in fact, not the president. You rejected Bill 10. Clause 11, which stated this as UPND. Why now do you support it?
I think we did say no to a few clauses, not just that one. But the reason why where I'm sitting, especially as Minister of Justice now, I have a more bifocal lens, I guess, if you may call it that, to look at it to say this can disrupt the nation's security. This can put us in a situation where a president can continue using that system, or just people who are malicious.
So you didn't see it back then?
Well, I wasn't Minister of Justice.
No, but as an MP, okay. you were in Parliament.
I was in Parliament.
You didn't see this then?
Well, I didn't say it personally. I have to accept that if I'm going to be honest. But where I'm sitting from right now, that is a gap that we need to fix.
So you agree that as UPND, you threw the baby with the bathwater in terms of Bill 10 because you were rejecting it because it was a PF bill and not because you were genuinely, as people's representatives, looking for what is good and bad out of that constitution?
You know what? I have tried to read some of what we said no to and why we felt that it wasn't the time for us to agree to that. What you need to remember is that UPND government were part of the conversations in the beginning. What we did disagree upon, that time we were in opposition, I should say, UPND party, it is the things as they progress. We thought that there were a lot of things being added to the bill, which I may not even have the capacity to go through in this evening. So really, I think it is important that sometimes you may look at things differently, and when you sit in another angle, you look at things differently.
So what are you telling? What are you telling? What are you telling?
Is this a good thing?
What are you telling the people of Zambia tonight, when we have to save every little coin towards development? We spent money on Bill 10. You rejected it. You're bringing the same bill years later. What are you telling them has changed?
Not the same bill.
It is the same bill.
It is not the same bill.
This proposal is similar.
Contentious issues, if we look at them objectively.
But you're trying to revise what Bill 10 was trying to revise.
I don't think so. I think there is some departure in some things. You just alluded to the issue of the Constitution, the delimitation, because that delimitation
but this one
was not part of it.
This one on 52.6 was in Bill 10. The reintroduction of members of parliament into council, it was in Bill 10 under clause 52 of Bill 10. It was there. You look at the issue of providing for the hearing and determination of an election petition. It was in Bill 10 under clause 30. So
I don't remember that one, but I could be wrong because you have the cited.
Yes, it was providing for the hearing and determination of an election petition. The Constitution in Article 73, 101. So we're talking about the time frame, so that what happened in 2016 does not repeat itself.
Exactly.
But even Bill 10, was saying let's amend this in clause 30. So you're bringing the same things back. Harmonization of the term of office for member of parliament. Clause 22 of Bill 10 had the same. But this is the same Bill 10 you had rejected.
Did they have the term limit for the mayors? Did they have the issue of the Attorney General and the Secretary General?
No,
I'm just asking you.
Those are new things.
Did we have the definition of the child which has created inconsistency? I'm just saying there is also a
the removal of the term limit for the office of mayor. Yes, this proposal was equally part of Bill 10 of 2019.
I don't remember it.
It was there.
I don't remember it.
Because you didn't even want to read it. You didn't want to read it, Minister.
The point is, I am seated in a position where I am forced to read the Constitution. No, at least for me.
The question for the people of Zambia is
to say why these are things that are non-contentious.
Why are you bringing back the same things which you rejected just a few years ago?
Then they make
now
sense.
They make sense because you're in power?
No, because you know what? The Constitution is a live document. Because just because they were not as live or as needed as then.
But what Bill 10 was trying to amend was that Constitution that you have.
Absolutely. And they didn't garner the support. So now we are also saying...
But you're party to the problem because you rejected the same things you're bringing back,
I don't think
Minister. So. How does your position change now that you're in power?
Well, first of all, I feel that some of the issues, especially an issue like the quota system or affirmative action, whatever system will come to, is very critical. For me, you are asking me or you're asking the party. But I am saying, as a Minister of Justice, as someone who has advocated for women inclusion in governance and in political space, that is a very critical issue for me. As a member of Parliament...
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, absolutely.
As a person who sat in Parliament prior to 2021, didn't Bill 10 have any proposals towards proportional representation?
Yeah, it did have.
It did have.
It did have, absolutely. But also we did have things that we did not agree upon.
So if it did have, if it did have,
yes,
as a gender activist, why did you not support it?
Because it had other things which we didn't agree upon. And
which you decided to lock yourselves at Community House and not represent the voices of the people of Canada.
By the way, no one was locked at Community House. People wanted to be there because they were agreeing upon. Was it
what the people of Kembe? Was it what the people of Kembe told you to do? That when you debate a constitution on our behalf, you should lock yourself somewhere and not participate in either voting for or not on behalf of the people?
Can I correct the impression of locking? You cannot lock anyone against their will. That would be unlawful.
Okay, absconding.
Okay? Yeah,
absconding by going to Community House.
We chose to make sure that we were together so that we agree on the terms that we agreed upon. Now, I've told you, maybe there is a way of reckoning. It's time for reckoning. Whatever is good that was in Bill 10, we are not ashamed to say it can show itself.
So you're apologizing to the Zambian people that you are playing, you're now hypocrites who are trying to play different. Because there was proportional representation in Bill 10.
No, just because there were some bills which are found in the commissioner's reports, just because they also came in. By the way, let's give credit where it's due. Even them, they did look at some of these commissions.
What was bad in the proportional representation being proposed in Bill 10?
What I remember, I personally, from a very limited interaction that I had at that time, because I wasn't in this position, so I didn't pay as much attention maybe I should have. It's because I believe that there was more of things added which we were not agreeing upon.
For example?
for example, I think one of the allegations, which I actually went and checked this time around, was the issue that the same argument people were giving us is that the term of the president was going to expand. And now, because I'm able to go back to the Constitution, and I got the bulletin, I said, can you show me where it says, or can I see where it says, because I'm not seeing it, and they were saying it's in Article 30, that the president also wanted the term to be expanded. That was President Lungu then. I didn't find it. So from where I was sitting from, as a person who has believed strongly in good governance, I was saying, why would we want to go back there when we are just coming from a one-party state and now we are saying we are a democratic state? So I think even this time, Costa, my encouragement to the Zambian people, let's read the Constitution. Because if I also had done a good job, maybe I would argue in a much better manner. That is why we have said these are only provisions. Let laws respond. Let people interact. You question people like me and bring others as well who disagree, who agree, so that we see the way forward.
So you took a political party line rather than a view of the people on issues that you're now bringing back, because you didn't fully read. You admit.
First of all,
you didn't fully read. You didn't fully understand.
When did we have the referendum as well? That was another issue.
In 2016,
yes.
It was voted down.
Yes, because
and you had an NDF where people's representatives were represented, and that matter came to you as parliamentarians to finally enact it as per the process.
Absolutely, and we didn't agree upon certain things. I think what is important even here, it is to give credit. In the same vein, we are going to go through that process. If the PF people do not agree, or the PF representative on behalf of their people, they have the right to say no.
And this is where
this has to be agreed upon by the people.
And this is where I was reading this, that for 30 years we've been going to back and forth. You've mentioned the commissions.
That is the point.
That process must protect content.
Yes.
Why should we let a handful of people, 150 of you, that we voted into office to represent us, and then when you go around consultations and we the people submit, then you come again to open this document and begin to disagree with what we the people have told you we want?
Oh, I don't think that's how it's supposed to read. First of all, let's give credit where it's due. It's the Constitution of Zambia that says the people in parliament, or the members of parliament, are the representation of the people. So I think let's give them credit. It is the powers that we have given them. And secondly, even the NDF,
but Minister, after for example, a Constituent Assembly or an NCC or a Constitution Review Commission, which goes around seeking consensus that the churches have said, the chiefdoms have said.
Which we are getting, some of the previous.
Yes, and I'm not talking about this. And this is what the recommendation was. Do you think it is right then that once the people have sat and there have been these commissions and all these things are put together to say, okay, this is now what the people want, it should then come to Parliament, because without Parliament it cannot be law. It's coming to Parliament for enactment. Is it right for MPs then again to start debating what the people have agreed on, or should they just then enact according to the people's will, because you're the people's representative?
Yes, and that is why you talk to your members. You talk to your members. And first of all, when, let's say, whether there is a commission that is put in place, whether it is via of the Gazette, which will happen for 30 days. And then, of course, there is a selected committee where the stakeholders, these are the same people who are either agreeing or not agreeing, they will come and represent. It is those thoughts that the members of parliament will table, and they will tell the executive, or should I say the Zambian people, including the members of parliament, to say these are our findings and these are our recommendations. At that point now, it is now for the members of parliament to do what is right. It's not us as UPND. Can you, the members of parliament, be trusted? Because it's a known fact that there are members of parliament who honestly do not represent the people that voted them into office. So how did they find themselves there?
Their pockets are lined up based on which political party wants them to swing a vote. It's very clear that you, the UPND, are swinging in allied with independents and a few other PF members of parliament. Is it not true?
Why would I make that assumption? If you are a member of parliament, where I sit, I have to represent to the best of my ability for the people of Kembe constituency. And secondly, even when I'm seated as Minister of Justice, one of the things, or the great advice the Attorney General ever gave me, he said, Princess, when I scan through the different portfolios, yours is different in this way. You have to be more of a listening minister. Others may go out there and maybe push what they are supposed to say, or their angle or politic a lot. You may not have to do that, because why? As a Minister of Justice, you have to ensure that every person within Zambia.
You're not answering the question, Minister. A constitution to be passed in such a manner requires 2/3 majority. When we look at the current structure of Parliament, can you assure the Zambian people that even if you're going to go into a 1-month consensus, what their will is will be protected by MPs of integrity, by MPs who will not be bought by the UPND to vote in favor for this constitution to go through, even if the Zambian people do not want some of these amendments?
They shouldn't be bought. Why wasn't I bought during Butane? Why would you
You
be
said
those?
You were not even in the country, so you abdicated.
You
abdicated your duty.
No. I had a situation until to the end. But every member of parliament should not be bought, because when you are there, it's no longer princess. It is on behalf of the people of Kembe.
For the sake of time, allow me to go.
The Zambians should trust their MPs.
The MPs
and if they don't trust them, they should talk to them.
Allow me to finally end on proposed amendment number 7, the increase in the number of nominated members of parliament. The Constitution under Article 68 2b provides that there shall be not more than 8 nominated members of parliament. It is proposed that Article 68 2b be amended so as to increase the number of nominated members of parliament to a number that would be provided for in an act of parliament. I've seen Laura Meaty, an activist, and Laz have now responded to this. They say this is a contentious issue and, in fact, retrogressive. It will result in increasing instead of reducing the powers of the presidency. The proposed article can be subject of abuse, with the potential to water down the accountability and legislative function of the legislature. It may result in creating a rubber-stamp National Assembly for the executive's arbitrary actions. The executive arm of government will effectively do whatever it shall please, including passing whatever legal and constitutional amendments it may desire to the detriment of democratic practices. Citizens will ultimately be the losers. We also note that one of the reasons behind nominated members of parliament is to allow the presidency to incorporate youth, women and persons with disabilities, or indeed citizens with unique skills and experience to be incorporated in National Assembly and Cabinet. It should follow that if we are discussing broadening pathways for women, youth and persons into key governance institutions, maintaining the status quo of 8 nominated MPs is more reasonable. If the President wants more people to appoint as Cabinet Minister, then perhaps he should be proposing appointment of Cabinet Ministers outside of Parliament as submitted by various constitutional review commissions and not bloating the legislature. It is unclear which stakeholders recommended the relegation of the number of nominated MPs to an Act of Parliament. Considering that this issue has been extensively deliberated at previous constitutional review commissions, and it has been agreed that it is safer for this limit on nominated MPs to be in the Constitution. This proposal poses the most threat to the national values and principles of democracy and constitutionalism, good governance and integrity as contained in Article 8 of the Constitution.
So I think what we didn't do well in my speech was to expand on exactly what that meant, which I did actually in terms of explaining, because I'm more of an off-cuff speaker. So when you give me a speech, I tend to add what I feel I need to expand on. The point we are trying to suggest, or the provision, the amendment we are trying to suggest, is that currently you have 156 constituencies. When you make the number, or you find the percentage that was used to arrive at 8. First of all, we asked the question, does anyone know how it came about? The little that I have come to learn is that it was done prior even to our time. Was it even maybe closer to colonial time? I haven't really confirmed this. So it was a way of making sure that even the minority, as you have said, at that time, it was also the minority where people who were actually ruling us in this country before independence. At least that's the little I have gotten. And so it was done so that also the minority comes in. I've just explained that for President Hakainde Hichilema, when you look at the way he balanced, the way he used that nomination, situation. It was more of regional balance. Why? Because we were coming from a time where people were highly charged in terms of divisions. So in his wisdom, he used that for regional balance, which then we are saying, where is the youth? Where are the women? That is the question that is being asked. In terms of what we are proposing, and I did do a statement to clarify, but again, it is a situation where once you say something and you clarify it later on, it doesn't get as much attention as possible. The suggestion there is, if there are 250, for example, I'm not saying there will be 250 constituencies in total. Because of population that has increased in Zambia, because of some of the geographical considerations, as we all agree, which will come from ECZ, then what is the 5%? Because when you look at 8 into 156, that is 5%. So then it becomes, what is 5% of 250? If in future, when maybe Zambia is, I don't know, 50 million, 60 million people, and the people, our children and our grandchildren and great-grandchildren, see to it that they need more constituencies because of their population and many other factors that they will agree upon, then if they still keep that clause, then it will be 5% of 500. Nothing like a runaway train where you just choose as you want. So in number, if I may finish that sentence, it means if we sit with the recommendation that ECZ did in 2019, which is suggesting 94 constituencies added, and if they were actualized to 250, that means there will be an addition of 2 more members. 2. I don't want to say only. So it will be from 8 to 10. That is the number. So I wish we had amplified it more in the statement, and that wasn't too much amplified, and this is me trying to amplify what was behind that provision, and that is how it will look like. Nothing like leaving it just open-ended, which I've hated the concerns, and rightfully so. But to make it clear, I'm being categorical here, it is 5% of whatever said number of constituencies will be in the House at a time.
Minister, due to time, we need to end here. Thank you so much for coming through. I'm sure you'll have a whole lot of a job in going around various media houses and engagements to seek wider consultation, and hopefully that there can be consensus on these 13 proposed amendments. But thank you for talking to me tonight.
Well, thank you very much. I look forward to engaging with a lot of you, and we are even looking forward to having some kind of meetings with different stakeholders. So we are working around dates, and we hope that in provinces also there will be these conversations. But again, this is your document. Zambians, let's read it, let's all interpret it, and we are listening, and hopefully that we can agree on something that is more progressive to all of us for the future and for our children yet not even born.
That wraps up Costa for tonight. We've been discussing the proposed constitutional amendments. My guest, the Minister of Justice, Honourable Princess Kasune, MP. Thank you so much. Remember, we've been streaming live on Facebook. It's Diamond TV Online, Diamond TV Zambia on YouTube. Good night and God bless.